Alright guys, so it's finally time to talk about another episode of Scandal, and last night's episode was highly anticipated. 220, not only because we knew there was going to be some big lit stuff happening in this episode, but obviously because Tony Goldwyn was directing. And TG did not disappoint last night, you guys. I felt like this episode was full of, like, parallels and lots of symbolism, and I absolutely love that. So right off the bat, like, something I noticed is that this episode started and ended in water. You know, like at the beginning of the episode, we have Olivia swimming, which we all know is Olivia's, like, coping mechanism. And then at the end of the episode, obviously, flash forward, we have her and Fitz together in the shower. And water typically symbolizes things like purification, you know, like the washing away of the old, and renewal, you know, like something new is coming. And also growth. And all of those things, I think, really symbolize Olitz in this episode. You know, like they took this huge step forward and kind of got past this barrier that they've been kind of struggling with, obviously, for like a year now. So yeah, it was really, really good, and I loved the kind of deepness there. So obviously one of the big things in this episode is this ultimatum, you know, that Mellie gives Fitz. And at one point we get down to where you've basically got 36 hours to come and apologize and ask for my forgiveness, or I'm going on television and I'm telling the world that my husband had an affair. And throughout the whole episode, you really are wondering, oh my gosh, is she gonna do it? You know, because Fitz is not having it, and he keeps telling Cyrus, like, she's bluffing and I'm gonna call her bet, basically. I'm gonna hold out and we're gonna see what she does, because I don't think she's gonna do it. So yeah, there was a lot of tension there as you waited to see, oh my gosh, is he gonna go talk to her? But then at the same end, you waited to see, like, if he doesn't, is she really gonna do it? Like, is she really gonna kind of put herself out there and put him out there like that? Now, the other part of this ultimatum, honestly, was Cyrus. Like, he was hilarious in this episode. I felt so bad for him because he was really kind of in the middle of it, and like a tennis ball just going back and forth. And I mean, we just saw him in the tunnels the whole episode. And I thought Cyrus in the tunnels was kind of interesting, right? Because tunnels usually kind of symbolize like death, or birth, or like the unknown, basically. And I felt like those were all things that Cyrus was dealing with. Because for Cyrus, like, his life as he knows it is dying, and something new is being born as he struggles, you know, to try to kind of patch these two together once again, to hold on to what he has. So he was completely kind of dealing with the unknown as he raced back and forth during the entire episode. He tried everything with Mellie. First he tried to, like, just demand she go back and stop acting like a child. He tried to bribe her at one point, and I really thought that was gonna work. I really, really did. He tried to get loud, he tried to beg, and then in the end he even tried to, like, look, what happens if I get rid of Olivia Pope? And let's talk about that for a second, because I know a lot of people were interpreting that line when he says to Mellie, you know, like, what if I could get rid of Olivia Pope? I don't think he meant, like, get rid of her as in, get rid of her. I think he meant get rid of her as in, he was gonna go talk to her and be like, look, I've got video of you sleeping with what's his name, I'm gonna show that to Fitz, and then if this is gonna be done. You know, I think he was gonna try to talk her out of it, and try to talk Fitz back into his presidency. But he didn't get the chance, so there you go. There's the scene, you know, at the beginning of the episode where he calls her at work. I loved this. Calls her at work and tells her she needs to come to the White House. She, of course, is like, I am not coming to the White House. And so he was like, fine, I'll come to you. Are your employees still there? I would love to meet them. And I just thought it was, like, so well played, Fitz. So of course she's gonna show up at the White House, right? So she shows up. Jake is with her, right, the entire episode because he's her protector, and I thought that was hilarious because they had some really great, like, banter throughout the episode. I especially loved when she dragged him to the White House and he was just like, you know I'm not supposed to come here without my uniform on, like, you're doing this on purpose, when really it's not about him. But anyway, so she shows up to Fitz, right, and let's talk about wardrobe for a second, you guys, because these damn gloves that Olivia's been wearing this season, like, I'm all about the Olivia Pope wardrobe. Like, I mean, I think she looks fabulous most of the time. The gloves drive me insane, though, because it's just like, really? You're gonna wear gloves? Like, I'm not feeling it. But I felt it today because it was so symbolic as she whipped those gloves off. I mean, it was like, the gloves are coming off now. We're gonna have some words. And she ripped them gloves off. It was just pretty much like, what do you want? I think Olivia had some really interesting lines in the scene, you guys. There was one point when she says to him, stop getting my hopes up. And you just knew, like, I felt so crushed for her in that moment because you knew knew that in their past, like in their relationship, he's gotten her hopes up so many times before, and then they've been kind of dashed, you know. So many times she's felt like maybe this is gonna work, and then it doesn't. Sometimes because she stops it, but sometimes because he does. And so, I don't know, when she said that, I just was like, oh, I felt so bad for her in that moment. And obviously the best line of the entire episode, right, is when she says to him, if you want me, earn me. And I absolutely love that. And I think those are the words that stuck with Fitz. Like, he heard that, and I think he was kind of taken aback by it. But eventually, obviously, he acts on that. I thought it was really interesting too, right? Because for the longest time, in my mind, I've been thinking, I just want them to talk. Like, they obviously have a lot to talk about, defiance, and they haven't been talking to each other for 10 months and all this craziness. If they could just get together and talk. But I think when Olivia said that, and then of course what happens later in the episode, it wasn't just about talk for her. She also needed action from him, not just his words. Because obviously Fitz is always ready to kind of give the words. You know, Fitz is always ready to say, I love you, and I need you, and we're never going to be over, and that type of thing. But she needed more than words. She needed action, and he does give that to her in the end, which I absolutely loved. Okay, so let's talk about Jake, you guys. Like I said, he followed Olivia around pretty much the entire episode because he's protecting her via his orders from the president. They had some really great banter that I absolutely loved. I mean, just like the scene at the beginning when she opens the door and he's just standing there, and then she calls the president, and then the president calls Jake when Olivia hangs up on him. I mean, it was just kind of funny. But they had this kind of poignant scene towards the end of the episode. You know, she finally kind of invites him in. You don't have to stand outside. And they sit, they're drinking wine, because that's what they do on Scandal, and they start talking, you know, and she finally asked the question, why did you sleep with me? And I thought his response was really interesting. I'm not really sure still if I'm trusting Captain Jake Ballard at all. But in his response, he really kind of seemed sincere. And that my theory all along has been like he was supposed to watch her. She was a part of whatever B613 is doing. But at the same time, he found himself attracted to her. Part of me wants to believe that that's true and that that's not just part of the whole scheme or whatever. He, of course, tries to get her to admit that she's the president's girl. And he says that like, I didn't know you were the president's girl. And seriously, for a second, you guys, I really thought she was going to admit that to him. But then she does the standard, I don't know what you're talking about, you know, type of thing. And then she even kisses him at one point. And really, you guys, the kiss to me felt almost like she was trying to prove him wrong. You know, just by kissing him, like, see, if I was involved with the president, why would I be kissing you type of thing. So now let's get to the best part of the episode. I swear we're going to talk about the mole in a second. That is not important right now. Olitz is what is important, people. So finally, it gets down to the wire with Mellie, right? Her whole kind of ultimatum. And Cyrus comes to Fitz, and it's pretty much just like, you need to go now, or this is a wrap. And Cyrus really says some things to Fitz that really kind of motivate him, not necessarily in the way that Cyrus wants them to. Cyrus basically tells Fitz, like, give her what she wants. Now, of course, he's talking about Mellie, but Fitz is thinking about Olivia. Give her what she wants, Cyrus tells him. You give for what you love. Give her the mountain, and time is running out, is what he says to him. And that is the thing that really kind of kicks Fitz into gear. I think he kind of makes that connection in his head, you know, based on what Olivia said to him earlier, like, if you love me, earn me. And then, of course, here he's got Cyrus telling him, like, if you love her, then you need to act. And obviously, yeah, like I said, because he's thinking about Olivia, he kind of connects those two and realizes that he needs to show her. And so Fitz grabs the Secret Service and heads to Olivia's. At first you think, of course, he's going to Mellie, and I was like, please God, do not let him go over there. He goes to Olivia's, and then symbolically, really, kind of tells Jake, you can go home. Like, basically, I've got it from here. The Secret Service is here. And it was really kind of like the changing of the guards. Like, you're done. Get out. And then they really have this fantastic moment, Fitz and Olivia, right? Because I think he has really kind of finally come to this realization. And he says to her, like, I love you more than I love being president. And really, I don't think you believe that. Like, I don't think you believe that I would be willing to kind of give that all up for you. And he tells her, like, I think you don't believe that I will ever choose you. And the look on her face, of course, says that he's so right. And so he basically tells her, like, I am choosing you, and we are going to sit here together, and we are going to watch the clock count down. I've got 21 minutes, basically, until my wife loses it on national television, but I'm going to sit here with you to prove to you that I choose you type of thing, right? So not only did we get 1 minute, people, we got 21 freaking minutes. And honestly, If they had done this episode and like the two of them had sat there for 21 minutes and looked at each other, I would have probably enjoyed the hell out of that. That is a DVD extra on the season 2 DVD, Shonda. You need to get that together. So the two of them sit there, right, you guys? Sweet Lord. And I mean, just the look on his face, just he had this smile on his face at one point where he's looking at her like, I'm gonna show you like right now. And I just loved that. And her, like, she's got this look of just, first just like fear, you know, like and just like awe, like and doubt and shock, like I can't believe this is really happening. Is this really happening? And then as the time goes by, she starts to look hopeful and just like amazed that this is actually happening. I also thought it was interesting that when she sits to wait, you know, with him for this 21 minutes, she doesn't sit next to him, you know, she sits in the chair, like away from him. I think almost like we're gonna let this time run down, and it wasn't until it was over that she kind of gave in, that she kind of went to him and kissed him and kind of really believed that this was gonna happen. And as Olitz is kind of sitting there waiting, we also see shots of Melly kind of intertwined in there, and you see her waiting as well, but she's got this look that is going from hopeful to just like, oh my god, he's not gonna come. Like she's kind of really kind of be forced to do this thing that she didn't think she was gonna have to do, because every other time she's kind of given the ultimatum, he's listened. But I think now she's starting to realize he's not going to. For me, I thought there was kind of this huge kind of Melly and Olivia parallel in this episode. To some degree, they both kind of gave him ultimatums, you know? Like, she gave him the ultimate kind of do what I say or I'm gonna ruin your life. And Olivia pretty much is saying, look, I know you said you love me, but if you love me, then you need to show that to me type of thing. At one point, too, like when Cyrus was coming back and forth with Melly, she says to him, like, I want what I asked for and nothing less. And for me, I felt like that was a huge theme for both Melly and Olivia in this episode, you know? Like, they both want what they asked for and nothing less. Like they're not willing to settle for less. Now, unfortunately, only one of them can get what they want, and thank God it was Olivia in this episode. Thank God for that. Once the time runs out, of course, Melly does her interview with James, who was obviously in this episode a lot. I love seeing him. He got a new job as on-air talent, you know, as a reporter, and it turns out that he's the one who does this interview with Melly. And I'd say if this is his first day on the job, then he should be up for a promotion, because Melly goes on the air and she spills it. I didn't think she was going to, but at the last minute, it's like she decides to do it. Again, you see Cyrus like frantically running through the tunnels to try to get there once he realizes that James is the reporter. And he runs into the interview as Melly is kind of letting it loose. And she turns to look at him at one point with this look on her face that just says, like, here we go. It was interesting, of course, as well that, you know, while that's happening, Olivia and Fitz don't care. He really doesn't care, you guys. So it was like the time ran down, and it wasn't even, let's turn on the news and see if she's gonna say something. By that time, it was like, we're kissing, and, you know, then it was like, let's make love everywhere. I mean, like, every room of your house where there is an available surface, we're gonna have a shot of you and me naked, basically. Let's talk about OPA for a second, because at that moment when Melly's doing the interview, and they're all watching the TV, and then David's all like, oh, I wonder who he's screwing, and turns around, and all of them are like, oh, I gotta go do something, and they all like leave the room. That was really funny. And I guess that means they all know. You know, we obviously knew that Huck and Harrison knew, but it looks like everyone knows about Olivia and the president, so. Okay, let's talk about the mole for a hot second, because we all know that national security is important, but not as important as Olitz, people. So Huck is finally out of the corner, and he gets up to help. Once he sees the tape, you know, from the storage facility, he realizes it's Charlie immediately. He even goes to her at one point to tell her that Charlie killed Amanda Tanner, and for a while in this episode, they really thought that Cyrus was the mole, like at OPA they did. I was kind of annoyed with all of them, right? Because when they tell this to Olivia, you know, she's just kind of like, look, this is my best friend. We need to absolutely make sure that this is true. Especially because the last person we accused of being the mole, who was not the mole, is dead. So we definitely need to make sure it's true. And they all seem to just kind of be like, whatever, Olivia. And I was kind of annoyed by them. Is it just me too, you guys? Or was Abby like back in annoying mode? She was doing her kind of annoying, judgmental Abby thing that really drives me batty. She's been doing that in the last couple of episodes. And I want them to stop that. Tone it down, because she drives me batty when she's like that. They do some research on Charlie. You know, they're trying to track him down. They realize that he's going to some like random like book club at this bookstore, which was really funny, as they integrated shots of him at this like 50 Shades of Grey like book club, and he's the only man. I thought that was kind of funny. They realize that he's been seeing one of the ladies at the book club, and eventually it comes out that she's a court reporter. And she was the court reporter that worked on the Defiance case. And by the time they figure that out, they realize that Cyrus isn't the mole, even though we kind of spend the whole episode wondering if he is. Because he knows about Defiance, and why would he have Charlie go and steal this woman's laptop? It doesn't make any sense, basically. That's when they realize that Charlie must be working for someone else as well. Now, during the scene with Jake and Olivia, when they're inside her house and they're drinking wine, he makes this really great point to her about the mole. Like, based on the intelligence that was on the flash drive, the mole has to be pretty high up within the White House. And so he kind of named off, like, it could be the president, it could be the vice president, it could be the chief of staff, or the secretary of defense. It has to be one of those four. So I think that plays to the point that Sally Langston is the mole, you guys. I just know Fitz better not be the mole, or I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be really mad if Fitz is the mole. But I think that points a big finger at Sally Langston. She is my new #1 suspect. Sally Langston is the mole. She found out about Defiance, realized that Fitz stole the election, and so, you know, I think she's just trying to throw a wrench in things for him. So that's my new theory. I'm sticking with it. At one point as well, we know that Charlie breaks into Jake's house and sees the video of he and Olivia, so he obviously has a copy of that, which he's given to Cyrus. But then later in the episode, we see Jake, who's got cameras in his own house. We see Jake looking through his footage and realizing that Charlie has that. So I definitely think Jake's gonna be doing something about that. So yeah, you guys, a fantastic episode. Really worth the wait and the hype. You know, we've all been waiting for 220, and it did not disappoint. It was really, really good, and I think moves the story forward. I am a little scared of what's coming, I'll be honest, because we only have 2 more episodes left, first of all, and that makes me sad. I don't know, you guys. I feel like Olitz is finally happy, but how long is that really gonna last? I just feel like we got a moment of happiness and the bubble's gonna burst soon. That's gonna depress me. And the last thing I want to say is don't forget about Scandal Chat. That will be happening on Saturday, and we will be talking about this episode in depth. And I'm sure after I've watched it another 5 times, I'll have even more to say. Even more to say. Okay, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out the review I did of last week's episode of Scandal, you can go ahead and click on the video link here. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, you guys. I want to know what you thought about this episode, because it was crazy. Okay, guys, bye.